Duck and cover, Chamorans. Run and hide. Get behind a concrete bunker. This is the advice coming to the people of Guam. They're not called Guamanians, by the way. They're called Chamorans.
Chamorans?
If you were wondering.
I figured that's what it was.
But they're being told now to duck and cover.
It's not the Guamish?
Get under your... No, it's not the Guamish. The Guamish. Hey, welcome back, everybody. This is the Jason Stapleton program, broadcasting again from the Random Walk Studios here in the heart of America for one more day. As you guys may or may not know, I'm out next week. We'll be in Long Island filming some more TV show. And then I'll be back not the week after that, because I'm going to be back for the weekend, and then they're sending me back out again. I think I'm Colorado Springs, maybe. I actually don't know. I'm just, that's how busy and popular I am. Someone tells me where I go and when I go there. And so I don't actually know, but I'm going to be gone. And I am going to try and put together a couple of short episodes for you over the course of that 2 weeks. If something comes up that's really interesting to me, I can put together a quick hit audio podcast for you and put it out. Probably no video from the hotel room. That's just too much trouble. But an audio with my thoughts, maybe we could do something like that. So anyway, that way you don't have to go the entire 2 weeks without hearing from me, because
we're gonna have World War III started while you're gone.
A lot of people complain. A lot of people complain when I'm gone all the time. I'm sorry, guys. I would love to be here and share with you every single day. It's just somebody offered me more money, so naturally. I did not. It's not that. It's actually not that. It's a cool opportunity, and I didn't want to give it up. And this show is a long-term project for me, so I intend to be around for a very long time. And I don't. This TV thing may be the only time. It may suck. I don't think it's going to suck, but I may suck, and they may not ask me back. And if that's the case, this is like a once in a lifetime opportunity, and I don't want to screw it up. So I'm going to do that. But anyway, back to what I was saying before is that is it the governor of Guam who said that they need to hide under their desks?
I didn't see. I just saw there was a pamphlet that they were passing out.
Handing out a pamphlet talking about what you do in the event of a nuclear blast. Now, I don't know if any of you have ever seen a map, but Guam is in a tiny, tiny island. And most of the population is consolidated into a very small area of that island, including the military base that is there. I think there's two. There's one on either end of the island. I'd have to look at the map again. But my point being, a nuclear weapon striking that area is going to wipe out pretty much everybody on the island. Which is why you see those guys sunbathing. You know, the people who really aren't worried, you've got people, CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, freaking out over the fact that North Korea says they're going to bomb Guam. You know who's not afraid? The Chamorans. They're like laying out on the beach. Whatever. But let them come. Guam is actually a really cool place if you're visiting. Like, I wouldn't want to live there, but it's pretty good. They got a Hard Rock Cafe. There's a really cool nightlife there. It's an awesome place to go and visit. The beaches are gorgeous. If you ever get a chance to go, it's not a bad place to visit. The problem is, after you've been there a week, you know everybody. You know all the waitresses, you know all the bartenders, you see them everywhere, because it's a very, very small place. And lots of Japanese tourists go there because it's a way that they can get an American culture without actually going all the way to America. And so after a while, because we used to go down there all the time to train. We used to do military training operations down there. And after you've been there about a week, you're like, yeah, this place everybody kind of knows you. It's like a small town. Mm-hmm. It's a big, small town. They got big city stuff there, but a very small town. So everybody knows your business. Everybody knows the stupid stuff that you did. Word gets around, and you learn that, look, it's a very small town atmosphere, not a place that I would necessarily want to live. But if you want to go to vacation, excellent place. Maybe you wait a few months just in case these North Koreans have anything up their sleeve and they actually intend to detonate. But see, I don't think any of that's going to happen. I think that's pretty stupid that we would. The Koreans are not crazy. They're very boisterous. They they sling a lot of mud, but they're not stupid. Right now, the Chinese are telling us, look, you better not strike first. But anything goes sideways, if they end up attacking you, feel free to decimate them. is essentially what the Chinese have said. Don't be the first to strike, but if you retaliate, we'll stay out of your way. So you're not going to see America pulling any shenanigans because they're not going to drag themselves into a bigger war than is necessary. If you want to know the truth of it, the military and the White House is going to do a calculation, and they're going to determine that losing every single person on Guam is worth it to be able to retaliate against North Korea and not have to deal with the Chinese. You do casualty, I mean, just judging by what the death toll is going to be if you do it the other way around, just makes more sense to let everybody on Guam die. That's not going to happen, though. So we're freaking out over nothing. And my opinion is, I tend to agree. Bill O'Reilly, I never thought I'd hear myself say this, but I actually agree with Bill O'Reilly. Bill O'Reilly was on Glenn Beck's program this morning. I was driving to the bank. I had him on.
I was about to say, how were you hearing what Bill O'Reilly had to say?
Well, Bill's got some sort of new internet thing now. So the big thing is
doing a podcast.
Yeah, well, but it's more than that. They're starting to do 30 to 40 minutes of pure desk commentary. Basically, it's Bill O'Reilly's show on the internet. Mm-hmm. And he's starting that up, and I think he's probably still in negotiations to go onto a network somewhere because he'd rather be there than online because the money's better. But he's on Glenn Beck's show, and Glenn likes him because Bill O'Reilly was really nice to Glenn when Glenn first came on to Fox News and acted as kind of a mentor to Glenn as he was getting into the business. And so they have a good working relationship. And so he's had him on several times. And so O'Reilly's talking about this North Korea thing, and he said essentially that this is the media's making a big deal out of this because it's the summer and there's no other news. Mm-hmm. I mean, you can continue to run the Russia story, but man, are people tired of hearing about that? So this is the next thing that they can get people spun up about, get them worried about so that they tune in to the news every night. And I have to agree with that. I think that that's a pretty fair assessment of what's going on. Now, the thing is, if Bill was still on Fox News, he'd be treating it as though it was a very serious issue that demanded our constant attention. But because he doesn't have to do that anymore, you can get a little bit more truth out of him. So I wanted to touch on it just so that you guys know it's not really anything that we need to worry about, and kind of laugh at the fact that they're using the old duck and cover advice for the people who live in Guam in the event of nuclear fallout. There's actually a website online that you can go to see how much, depending on the megaton of the warhead, how much of your city would be destroyed.
I'd be lying if I said I wasn't messing around with it.
And I went on there when we first started talking about this. I mean, a year ago, I went on there and checked it out.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it is. It's neat. You can see exactly whether I'm not in the guaranteed dead zone.
It just depends on how big the weapon is.
Yeah, but I calculated what the average nuclear warhead is, and assuming that was the one that hit Kansas City, I'm not in the you're instantly dead zone. Mm-hmm. I'm in the you're probably dead if you stay here zone.
Yeah.
So you'd have to get out of town pretty stinking quick, and even then, depending on which way the wind's blowing.
Yeah, luckily around here the wind usually blows west to east, so we'd be in pretty good shape.
Yes, we should, but it might drift it, to the east rather than down towards us. But it was kind of cool to go on, and you could see exactly how many people were going to die if a nuclear warhead struck Kansas City. But what I do want to talk about today, the headline for today's show is something like the 1,000-yard stare of the guy in the cubicle next door. And this came from Darren was walking, because we had this conversation a couple of weeks ago about how sad it is to see other people in their jobs. Because we kind of have jobs where we do stuff that's interesting, and it's an open office where people can come and go as they please. There's a lot of freedom here. Vacation when you want a vacation, time off when you want time off. There are hard deadlines we have to meet sometimes, but you kind of run your own show around here. And Darren was coming out of were you coming out of the bathroom? Is that what?
No, I came back from lunch.
So you come back from lunch, and
so we pulled.
That was the handoff.
You're
to
ready?
You. Yeah.
Okay. Explain this. Yeah.
Okay.
So me and OG pulled up, and as we pulled up into the parking spot right there, the guy was coming down and coming out of the building, and we knew who he was. We see him every day, and every time I see that guy, I'm just like, that dude, he's on his way to hang himself because that's what he looks like. He's just like humped over and looks depressed and just like he hates life. And I told you, I was like, if there's ever gunfire that erupts over there, I know it's gonna be that.
But
dude,
aren't
man.
all those guys,
They
all of
are.
them look that way?
They are. That guy just looks
Like
especially
every
rough.
time, lots of times they'll come out into the hallway to talk.
Mhm.
I assume because they don't want anybody else in the cubicles hearing them talk on the
Yeah.
cell phone or whatever. And they all seem angry all the time.
Constantly.
Like it reminds me of Office Space, like PC load letter. What the? Why does it say paper jam when there is no paper jam?
But I just think like, you know, we always see the news and the guy like goes unhinged and shoots people at his office, and then they interview the neighbor, and the neighbor's like, "Oh, we had no idea. I would have never thought that Jim would have done that."
Right.
If it was this guy, I'd be like, "Oh yeah, it was only a matter of time." Like
The writing
I'm not
was on
surprised
the
at all.
wall.
Yeah.
I'm surprised he lasted this long.
Really.
Yeah, no, but everybody coming out of there is really kind of looks the same way. And I have no idea what they do across the hall. I know there's a ton of them because the bathroom was basically empty before these guys filled up the thing about a year and a half ago. And so there was nobody on, there's only 2 other guys on our floor. And so it was basically a private bathroom. And now you can't do anything in that place without 6 dudes in there.
Yep. Gotta
And
wait in line.
It's frustrating. Let me put it to you that way. I've modified my schedule in order to accommodate the fact that I don't want to be in there while there's 6 other dudes in there. But a point being is that I think there are a ton of people out there that this is their life. When we got done talking about this the other day, I had a ton of people send me emails and go, man, that really hit home with me that you guys were talking about that, you know, kind of how miserable people are, because I kind of feel that way. And I guarantee you it comes from the fact that people go to college. There's this understanding that you're going to go to high school and you're going to do well in high school so that you can get some good grades so that you can get into a decent college and so that you can be eligible for some subsidies or some grants or whatever so that you can go to college. And when you're 17 or 18 years old, you got to decide what you want to do with the rest of your life. And so you go and get some generic business degree or a sports medicine degree because you played basketball in high school and you have dreams of staying on the court forever. So y'all sports medicine, I'll be a coach somewhere. Or you decide you're going to be an accountant because your dad's an accountant. You know, you see what I'm saying? At 17, 18 years old, you're supposed to decide what the rest of your life is going to look like. And you're supposed to take on enough debt that it'll take your whole life to pay it off. And then you're supposed to get a job doing whatever it is that you went to school for immediately after you get out of school. So a lot of these guys go to school, computer science degree, whatever, and they get out and then they looking for a job. And when I was coming out of school, you could still get a job coming out of college. There was unemployment. The unemployment rate was really low. It was, and I'll explain in a minute the difference between a 4% unemployment rate when I was getting out of high school and a 4% unemployment rate today. But you'd get out of school and you could find a job in your field. And so people would get a job in their field and then they'd realize that their field sucks and that they don't really like it, but they got married. And so now they got a little one on the way. And before you know it, they're in that job. And then they get offered another job someplace else doing something different. So they go up over there and then they have another kid. And before you know it, they got a couple of kids. They got a mortgage. They got a wife that they got to provide for. And now they're stuck. Fast forward 20 years and the guy's coming out of the room like the guy next door. Just hating himself. How did I get into this? Where did my manhood go? Why does all my money go away? I think a lot of people, especially men, deal with this. Women deal with things, different things in a different way. But especially the men who are working and providing for a family, I think a lot of them end up like the guy across the hall. There's just corporate America is packed full of them. And I'm always confused. I look at it this way. I both am empathetic and at the same time indifferent. Because the only thing that's required for that guy across the hall to change his life and to not have a life that sucks is for him to make a decision to change it. Is for him to say, listen, I'm going to put it on the line. I'm going to save my money so I can save up a few months worth of rent, and I'm going to come up with an idea, and I'm going to start my own company, or I'm going to go work in an industry that's completely different than mine, but one that I think I'll really enjoy. And maybe it means I make less money initially, and so I have to downsize my house. All it requires is you to make a decision to not have your life suck. And then have the intestinal fortitude and the risk, the willingness to risk to go out and try and achieve that end. That's what's necessary for someone to change their life. And I'm going through a transition like this right now, and I can't share everything with you right now, but I will share it with you in the future. But I'm not just saying this because I'm some guy who, who's already achieved, and so now I don't have to worry about it anymore. So now I can look down at everybody who is in a crummy job. This happens no matter who you are, no matter what level you get to. There's always a time when you look at your life and say, yeah, something needs to change. And in order for it to change, I have to change. And the reason I bring all of this up is because of an article that I saw today coming out of Zero Hedge called Zero Hedge, Insecurity of Social Security is the title. And they're talking about the number of people who are on Social Security. And they said retirees right now, there are 41.9 million of them. I'm sorry, excuse me. There are 49.9 million retirees, among whom 60% count themselves and count their Social Security as their primary source of income. 60% of the people who are retired today rely on that income as their sole source of income. These are folks who work their entire lives. Many of them at a job that sucked as much as the guys who hate their job next door. They ended up at the end of their lives with nothing. So not only did their job suck, it'd be one thing to have a sucky job that paid you $1 million a year, and you're like, I could stomach that because, dude, what a life. Mm-hmm. These people lived a mediocre life, receiving mediocre pay for a job that many of them hated. And at the end of that life, they got nothing to show for it. They're completely or solely reliant on Social Security revenue in order to keep them from being destitute. According to Legg Mansion Investment Survey, U.S. baby boomers have an average of $263,000 saved in defined contribution plans. But that figure is less than half of the nearly $700,000 they say they will need to retire. As noted by Go Bank Rates, I'm sure GoBankRates.com, more than half of Americans will retire broke. Right now, you got a 50-50 shot of retiring broke in America. Does that sound like a healthy economy to you? Does that sound like we're doing a good job of teaching our kids who are now growing up to be adults how to manage their finances? It's not hard. I've told you how to get rich in America. Spend less than you make, save and invest the rest in things that you understand. That's the 2 ways you do it. It's only 2 ways. If you don't make enough, you got to increase your skill set. You got to work more. You got to do something. Something has to change. If you don't understand how to invest your money, if you don't understand where to put it, you have to learn. It requires action on your part. You are not a casual observer to your life. Do you understand that? You don't go through life where things happen to you and you just kind of react to what's going on. You're not a spectator. You're an active participant. But the problem is too many people live their lives as casual spectators. And it's unfortunate because half of them end up with nothing at the end. And so I'm reading through this, and it says, according to the latest Social Security Board of Trustees report issued last month, benefits could be slashed by 23% if Congress fails to act. Because here's the problem. Birth rates in America are going down. When Americans first started retiring, when baby boomers first got into the Social Security game, there were roughly 16 payers into Social Security for every person who was taking out. That means the payment of the one retiree was spread loaded among 16 workers. You know what it is now? 3. So if you think about that in monetary terms, years ago, when Social Security was healthy because birth rates were we were birthing more kids than were using Social Security, average American household had to spend about $500 to pay for a retiree. Now they'll spend $18,000. This is crazy. It's going to have to change. It's not sustainable. There is no trust fund. I know some of you have heard the liberal lie that, oh, no. There's an entire trust fund. There's a lockbox there, and there's money. It's got your name on it, and it's just sitting there waiting for you to retire. Nope, it's not. There's no money there. This is how Social Security works. Money comes in from Social Security. The government decides who needs benefits right now, and they pay those off. Any leftover money doesn't go into a trust fund. It goes into the general fund to be spent by the government in that year. Not only does the government spend all of that money, it also borrows an additional $500 billion a year. There is no Social Security money. Now, according to this report, and you can do a pretty good job of defining what life expectancy is going to be and the number of people who are going to be paying into Social Security in the years to come due to birth rates and things like that. They can average that pretty easily, or estimate it, excuse me. And Social Security is going to continue to take in more money than it pays out until 2021. In 2022, those numbers get inverted. And now Social Security will be taking in less money than it pays out. Now, folks, if there's no trust fund, if there's no lockbox, if there's no magic pile of money somewhere to pay off current retirees come 2022, and the dollars coming in are less than the dollars needed to go out, what do you think is going to happen? What is the solution to that problem going to be? It's one of two things.
Raise contribution levels?
Either benefits are going to have to go down, government is going to have to shrink other parts in order to increase Social Security, or taxes/borrowing is going to have to go up. Which one of those three do you think is going to happen? Now, keep in mind, who votes?
Old people.
Old people vote. So if old people vote, do you think that benefit reductions are going to be primary on the plate of, or they're going to be a primary option for your politician? No. Do you think that the government is going to suddenly have an awakening, and they're going to say, "Jeez, I didn't realize how much spending we were doing around here. I didn't realize how backwards our finances were. We really have to tighten up the purse, and we certainly can't. We made these promises to these people, so what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to cut a bunch of other programs so that we can make this all work." Does that sound like government to you? Or do you think that the government is going to do exactly what they're proposing right now, which is tax cuts, along with increased spending, increased borrowing, raising the debt ceiling, and pushing it off onto your children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren? Somebody else's problem. See, right now, the government thinks that one of the ways to get the economy going is to make tax reform a priority and make all of the tax cuts retroactive to January 2017. Retroactive means before. So you would be saving money starting January of this year when you paid your taxes versus when they the tax cuts actually take effect. Now, you're never going to hear me complain about a tax cut. Anytime the government wants to let you keep more of your own money, I'm in favor of that. I'm in favor whether they do it for rich people or poor people or the middle class. I don't care. I would prefer they do it for everybody. But I'm never going to be a guy who stands against a tax cut for any reason. But I do want you to understand that there's a trade-off here. If the government continues to take in less and less revenue, while at the same time cutting taxes and keeping its spending on par or increasing, where do you think that extra money is going to come from? It comes from borrowing. You're trading your money today for your children's money tomorrow. And don't think for a moment that tax revenue isn't going to go down. Because remember what I talked about, Social Security? What's happening in America today? We got a lot less workers coming into the workforce than we have people retiring. What does less workers into the workforce mean?
Less people paying into Social Security.
Less people paying taxes, period.
Period, yeah.
So if less people are paying taxes, period, what is that going to do to the overall revenues of the U.S. government? You see how this becomes a bigger and bigger problem the deeper we unravel it?
Well, Jason, we'll just tax the robots.
That's what they're going to have to do, but it's not going to make any difference. The fact is that in an economy where there are less people working and less people producing, you can still have a higher standard of living if productivity continues to increase. But those productivity gains with a lower population just simply means the government is taking in less revenue. Very, very difficult to get around that. So anytime the government starts talking about a tax cut that isn't associated with massive cuts in government spending, we have a problem. Because what we're really doing is we're taking our money today, but still living as though we were paying the taxes. And the government is simply borrowing the money that it needs to continue to operate. And here's the point I want to make with all this. Then I'll tell you a little bit about our sponsor. Is that you got now a bunch of baby boomers who are retiring or who are expected to retire, who are going to be solely reliant upon their Social Security, which is not going to be there for them in just a short period of time. Do you think that they're going to be able to retire? Do you think that they're going to retire? Or do you think that they're going to stay in the workforce? And here's the problem. The government keeps telling us that we have a 4% basically unemployment rate. But I took a look at a stat that's in this article from Hedge. It's right here on this page I can't turn to. Back in 1998, which is the year I graduated from the high school, employment to worker population age 16 to 54, this is working age, 56%. That means 56% of the people 16 to 54 who were in that age bracket had jobs. 56% of them, 4% unemployment rate. Today, 4% unemployment rate, 46%. 10% less of working age men and women have jobs today than they had in 1998. Now, what does that tell you? Well, it tells you, number one, the 4% number is bogus. It tells you that there is a massive number of people right now who are looking for work but aren't counted in the unemployment numbers because they've just given up. These are both young people who are looking for work that's being occupied by older folks who cannot retire because they don't have the money to retire, and because you've got companies that are increasing productivity, are changing the way they do business in the face of things like minimum wage hikes in order to ensure they can continue to profit. The world is changing, folks. The economy is changing. It's changing dramatically. You know, Bill O'Reilly and Glenn Beck were talking about the cable television business because they were both involved in it, and they said it's dying. It's dying fast. People are cutting the cord. Advertising revenue is going down. They're having to come up with new solutions on how they're actually going to continue to keep stuff on the air. They're having to adapt. You have to adapt. You have to modify, to change what you're doing. You have to start thinking ahead. Some of you have 20, 30 years of working life left. You have two choices. You can modify and adapt. You can choose to take on a little bit of risk and challenge yourself to achieve a life that most people can envy, or you can end up like the guys across the hall. Choice is yours. I want to challenge you to challenge yourself. I'm thoroughly convinced that anybody can do it. It's just a question of whether or not you want to apply the risk and the time and the energy that's required. I read a quote the other day on Facebook or somewhere. It said something like, if you don't sacrifice for your dreams become your sacrifice. And it was, I don't like the term sacrifice because I don't believe in sacrifice. I believe in choices. But it doesn't, it's true. Like you can either make decisions and risk to achieve what you want out of life, or the thing that you wanted to risk for becomes the sacrifice that you make. It's I thought it was compelling. And so I don't want you to end up like the folks who are retiring today. I don't want you to end up with no money in your pocket, with no opportunities, too old, with a skill set that's too out of date to really be of value in an economy that's changing faster than you can keep up. And now you're forced to rely on your friends, your family, your kids to take care of you. We're already burdening our children with a debt burden they can't possibly pay. We as grown-up adults have a responsibility to ensure that we don't become one of those liabilities. But only you can make that decision. I just hope you will, because you're going to live a more fulfilled and more prosperous and a healthier life if you do. Now, guys, let me tell you about FrameBridge. This is a really, really cool company, okay? I've done a lot. I've had a lot of pictures done from FrameBridge. What they do is, you know how normally you got to go out and you got to get your picture and you got to take it to the store and you got to pick out this frame and then you got to take it to the frame person. The frame person is going to charge you $100 or whatever it is to put the frame together, and it's going to take them a week to do it, and then you have to come back and get it. The FrameBridge will do all of that online and will send you a picture perfectly framed up. They will even have a consultant help you find the best frame and give you some options for the picture that you want to frame up. And I've done a lot of these. All you got to do is, most people are taking pictures now on their cell phones, they're taking pictures on digital cameras. All you do is upload the photo to FrameBridge, pick out your sizes, pick out the frame you want, and then just click go. And FrameBridge will customize a frame to fit your picture and will send it directly to your home. It's beautiful. I've got a couple of them right over here sitting to my right in the studio. And right now, my listeners can get 15% off their first order at framebridge.com when they use my code Stapleton. FrameBridge even offers a happiness guarantee. If for any reason you aren't 100% satisfied, they will make it right. Get started today framing your photos or art. Go to framebridge.com and use the promo code Stapleton to save 15% off your first order. Go to framebridge.com, promo code Stapleton. Framebridge.com, promo code Stapleton. All right. Where do we go from here? Here's an interesting study. A number of Americans caught underpaying some taxes surges 40%. These are people who are operating in what they call the gig economy, or they're independent people like me. So they own companies and they have to estimate. So the government says that if you work for somebody else, you got to pay your taxes every month. And they take your taxes out of your paycheck so that you don't actually see how much is going to pay taxes. This is a really good trick the government came up with. They said, man, if we actually made it apparent, if we made them write the check every month to us, that would be, they look at us like we were criminals, because you are. So what we'll do is we'll just mandate that the employer take the taxes out of the account before they get the check. And what most people do is they just look at their check and see what they made, and then they go deposit the check. They don't realize how much is going out in taxes. Well, if you own a small business or you work in a gig economy, which means you make money over a period of time and over chunks of time, you don't have regular income. So there's no way for the government to mandate somebody withhold taxes from you. So what the government decided was, initially, you only paid at the end of the year. But then a lot of people, they just might have forgot to withhold all their taxes for that year. And then they ran into some problems, which means the government now isn't getting their money. Also, if you're not reporting your taxes on a regular basis, the government can't estimate how much its revenue is going to be. And the government likes to be able to estimate how much money is going to come in every month. In fact, it needs that money coming in every month because it only has about $60 billion on hand at any given time. Did you guys know that? Apple has more cash on hand than the federal government does. They spend it as quick as it comes in. And so when you think about that, the government has a vested interest in making sure that you are consistently paying into the federal government. And they looked at what these business owners were doing and they said, well, we can't have this. We want our money. What kind of shenanigans are we going to use to explain why they have to give us our money now rather than at the end of the year? Because here's the crazy thing about owning a business. Sometimes in the third or fourth quarter, you might have really big expenditures, which significantly reduce your tax burden. But the government wants you paying in quarter one and quarter two as though you made that in profit over that quarter, when really you don't know what your profit and loss is going to be until the end of the year. So the government came out and said, well, it's unfair that your average American who works a job has to pay in every month, but you business owners don't have to pay until the end of the year.
Cool. Let's just let the average American pay at the end of the year.
You would think that would be the way to do it, right? That was okay. Let's fair this up then.
Done.
Everybody pays at the end of the year. No, government can't have that. But it's unfair that you don't have to pay in on a semi-regular basis. So the government says you now have to pay quarterly taxes. You have to estimate what you think your taxes are going to be, and you have to pay in every quarter according to what your estimates are. Problem is, most people are underestimating. Go figure. People underestimate what they're supposed to be paying. Well, the government charges you a penalty for doing that, because naturally everyone would underestimate if there wasn't some sort of penalty. What bothers me is there's appears to be no correlation at all between current interest rates and what the government charges you as a penalty. Mm-hmm. So current interest rates are what? They're about a quarter of a percent. They're not even 1% is what the Fed fund rate is. Guess what the federal government charges you as interest if you fail to accurately estimate what your payment should be?
10%, 15%?
No, it's 4%. But still pretty outrageous. More than four times what the Fed fund rate is.
Yeah.
And they will ding you with this if you fail to produce correct estimates.
But what I'm saying is if you do that over 4 quarters, that adds up.
That does. Well, of course it adds up. I told you about the time they came into my bank account for $25, right? This is the
$25?
$25. This is crazy. So I pay my taxes as I'm supposed to, and for some reason, the government thought I had underpaid my taxes by $25. Well, I was getting ready to pay taxes anyway in like a couple of months. And so rather than write these guys a check for, first of all, I check with my accountant, and my accountant's like, well, I mean, okay, like we can, like it's probably just a miscommunication. I mean, we certainly paid all your taxes in. And I said, all right, well, whatever. I got to pay taxes in a couple of months anyway. We'll add this $25 in when we do that. And I get a couple of letters from them. And then finally I get this letter from the IRS that says, you owe us this money and we're going to come into your bank account. We're going to take it if you don't pay it. Now they have sent me 3 letters. Somebody had to make sure that letter got printed. Mm-hmm. They had to make sure that letter got stuffed and mailed. They had to send it certified because they had to have proof that I got it.
To pay the postal employees to take care of it through the process. So they're now $75 for this $25
for this $25 recovery. And I mean, considering the amount of taxes I pay every year, they ought to just be like, whatever, close enough.
Rounding error.
But they came in and they said, we want this $25 and we're going to what'd they say?
Seize it.
We're going to seize this money if you don't pay it. And I'm like, oh, good grief. So I'm like, all right, I'll go ahead and I'll get it done. And of course I set it aside and I do nothing with it because it's $25. Next thing I know, I get a letter from the bank saying the IRS has come in and they've taken $25 out of your bank account.
Surprised they didn't take like an extra 10 for a collection fee.
I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. I'm like, why didn't you just do that to start and save me the trouble of the 3 letters? It's just, if it's $25, just go, fine, go get it. If it's that easy, just go get it.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to take whatever you want anyway. So just don't bother sending me just send me the notice.
Yeah, let's not play the game.
But I couldn't believe it, man. They couldn't wait 2 months for tax time to come around and for me to pay my taxes. Not to mention the fact that how many dudes out there right now who haven't filed in years and they're coming after me for $25. I just, it made me realize just how vile and how unrelenting the IRS is. Once you get in their crosshairs, $25, $1,000, $10,000, they treat it all the same. They'll just come in and take it if you don't pay it. Crazy. All right, guys, let me tell you about Smart Move. If you own property, your number one concern as a landlord is are you going to get paid on time? Is the tenant that you're putting into that property going to treat the property with respect? Are they going to pay their bills on time? Or are you going to lose big? Evicting a tenant can cost as much as $3,500 and take as long as 4 weeks to complete. That's money out of your pocket. 1 in 5 tenant applications has a relevant criminal hit. 1 in 5. TransUnion research shows that 20% of rental applications had at least one prior eviction and are likely to be evicted again. Is that the kind of person you want in your rental property? Probably not. So why don't you just go and use something like Smart Move to make sure that it doesn't happen? Let me tell you about Smart Move and find out what you don't know about your rental applicants, and how you can save 25% off your next tenant screening. It's convenient, 100% online. The reports come from credit reports, criminal background checks, eviction records from TransUnion. Gets all the information that you need that you can't find on their Facebook and their Twitter feed. From tenants, you get information that you need to help pick the right one and fast results. Plus, there are no fees and no minimums. You pay per use. That's it. Good for renters because it doesn't impact your credit score. So it's nice for the renter as well because when you have them run this report at SmartMove, it doesn't affect your credit score. If you own rental property or know someone who does, try SmartMove so you don't find out the hard way that a prospective tenant is an eviction risk. Go to tenantscreening.com, enter code Stapleton, and get 25% off your next screening. Don't be in the dark about your applicant's rental history. Know your tenants with SmartMove tenant checks. Go to tenantscreening.com, enter my code Stapleton to get started. With SmartMove, you'll get great reports, great convenience, and great tenants. It's a pretty cool company. All right. With what little time we have left, let me talk about something else, just in terms of how markets are changing. Ultra-fast Wi-Fi is going to start hitting the market soon. They've had a bunch of scientists who've just tested ultra-fast Wi-Fi 100 times quicker than today's mobile networks using high-frequency radiation. Now, that made me a little nervous.
Sounds dangerous.
I'm like, I'm not sure if I want Wi-Fi high-frequency radiation next to my head or in my pocket while I'm surfing. But they said they're using something called terahertz, and they have sent a video signal over terahertz with speeds at 50 gigabits per second. Now, the average Wi-Fi connection has speeds of about 500 megabits. So this is massive. Now, they saw some packet loss and some error messages at 50 megabits, but they said that's correctable. But they saw absolutely no errors at all at 10 megabits per second. And they said that with bandwidth usage, everybody's running out of it because the streaming problems, they got to come up with a better way to send Wi-Fi signals. And I've read some stuff. Some of you guys listening may know more about this than I do, but I've read some stuff about how dangerous Wi-Fi signals are. And they're talking about, because it's a microwave signal is what it is, and how dangerous it is. But I mean, we've been using it for years and years, and I wonder what the real threat is. Maybe if you had it running into your brain all the time, it might cause you problems. Because there are people like, I know real estate agents, more than one, who have claimed brain tumors because they're just on their phone. The phone is tied to their ear all day long. And I don't know if there's truth to that or not, but I know that there are microwave signals that if you're predisposed to cancer can really cause problems. And I don't know if this ultra high frequency radiation has a similar effect or not. But You would think that'd be something they'd check before they started using that as an alternative, but I don't know. The good news is people are coming up with new ways to increase bandwidth and send wireless signals all over the world. Like we're going to have fiber optic connection Wi-Fi very soon. Now, what does that mean? Well, we talk about competitive advantages. And sometimes where you're born and where you live gives you a distinct advantage over your competition when you're entering a market. For example, I live in a city that has Google Fiber. I have a massive internet now at my home, giving me a competitive advantage over anybody else in a city that doesn't have it. Likewise, if you live out in the sticks and the only internet that you can get comes from a satellite, you've got super slow, basically upgraded upgraded dial-up connection, and it costs you 3 times what I get. And you look at that and you say, well, Jason's got a really unfair advantage. He's got a competitive advantage over me. That's not fair. And you're right, it's not. If you want to compete with me in my industry, you might have to move here. You might have to make a change because in a free market, things aren't always fair. But what something like this means is it means anybody, anywhere in the world is going to be able to get fiber level internet delivered straight to their phone, straight to their computer, without having to have a hard line dug to their house. Going to change the internet, going to change the way that we do business. Incredible. I'm thoroughly convinced as America moves out of really an industrialized age into a digital age, that people are going to be moving out of the factories, the big box retailers, the huge companies that employ tens of thousands of people, and the stuff that our grandfathers built their lives on is going away. And we're going to see a return to small companies, small individuals who are doing really fantastic work and really creating very niche products in a defined space. I'm wearing a bracelet today that I got from a listener of the show. It's a leather bracelet, and it's got a 9mm bullet on the top of it, and it's really cool. It's from some guys, a guy whose company's called the Black Pearl, and they make jewelry for I think most of it's for women, but they've got some men's stuff too. That's made out of pearls. And it's a really cool company. I took they sent me some stuff in the mail because they're going to be advertising on the show. It's a small business. He came to me because he listens to the show, and he says, hey, I've got this business and I'm interested in advertising it. I want to send you some stuff and send your wife some stuff. And if you guys want, we'd like to advertise on your show. And so we talked about it a little bit. He sent me the stuff. Man, they got their logo is really cool. Their products are really cool. Very niche. It's like if you're looking for this specific thing, these guys do that. And I guarantee you, with what I've seen, they're going to be very successful. If they're not already, they've got to be at least a little successful to be able to market on this show. But what I'm saying is, there's all kinds of people out there doing that. And there's all kinds of room for those people in this new economy. It really, really is incredible. And I'm excited about it. And I hope you guys are excited about it. It's not all doom and gloom. Yes, the economy is in very bad shape. And yes, we are going to have, if you listen to Jim Rogers, in the next year, we're going to see an epic collapse of the stock market. Maybe we will, maybe we won't. The question is your life and is your future going to be dependent on whether or not that happens? There are going to be winners and losers. In every recession, there are huge winners. Fortunes are made during recessions. But only by people who are prepared, only by people who are ready to make a move, only by people who are willing to risk and who understand the economy and the industry that they're living in, the age that they're living in. Don't be one of the guys who ends your life, who lives your life like those cats across the hall from us, and don't be one of those people who end your life like 50% of Americans do. Have a plan. Talk with your spouse. Decide what it is that you want to do with your life, what you want your life to be about, what the purpose and meaning of it is. Don't let life happen to you. Decide what you want it to be and then go create it. Guys, thanks for being here today. Thanks for being here this week. Thanks for sharing the show and being part of what we're building here. I'm so excited for the year to come, for the balance of this year, for next year, and for the many years to come. And I hope you'll join us back here again. As I said, I've got to be gone next week, but I'm going to have some episodes that will be coming out. And then when I get back on the, 20-somethingth, I'll kick this right back off again, right where we left off. Until then, be safe, be good. Talk to you then.